Hello, I'm Rob Constantine, and this is Paranormal Record. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Very cool to be here. Very glad to have all of you listening, and thank you so much for the support. The show continues to grow, and now we have advertising and wild, just wild. Like from where we started till now, just me doing this and hoping that people would listen, and all of you that are listening and out there and supporting the show. Gosh, thank you so much, and just appreciate you coming along with me on this really exciting journey. And here we are at the very end of season two. And I've got more. I've got so much more for you. So stay with me, stay tuned, and um, let's just see how far we can keep going. So this episode is my friend Joey the Mad Scientist. And Joey and I go back to the point of where I first started listening to podcasts. Didn't even know what a podcast was, and my friend Andy had a podcast that was produced by Digitype Productions, and it talked about film and popular culture, and it was edited and put together and produced by Joy the Mad Scientist. So then when I put my own show together, very much in the shadow of greatness with my friend Andy's show and how much I enjoyed it. And this is years and years ago. This I don't even think the show is I don't think you can find it anymore. But it was really cool and so much fun. And I called Joey when I started Paranormal Record up and I said, hey man, I'm doing Paranormal Record and I want to do a show and I want to do a ghost show and a true ghost story show and talk to people about their paranormal experiences. And then I can listen to more stories and share those stories with the world. He said, I said, do you want to produce it? Will you edit it and help me do this? And we can figure out that together. He said, well, Rob, I have my twins and I have a farm and I live in Virginia now and I'm doing all these things. Um, I don't know if I have time to produce a show again. I'm kind of out of that. Um, but I encourage you to find that you can do this yourself. And I did. I tried, and now I know how to edit and I know how to mix. And this is the last two episodes of the second season. So, um, but just Joey just gave me encouragement and said, "I'm so excited you're doing this, and I want to be a part of it. Let me be a guest." So this is a long time coming. Uh, One of my podcast heroes, Joey the Mad Scientist, and he's got a lot of stories to tell us. And then I think he's going to come back. I have some more Joey the Mad Scientist. This is part one, so stick around for part two. We're going to bring Joey back, and Joey's going to interview me in the next episode. So stick around for that. That should be coming out in the next week or so. So you'll have Joy the Mad Scientist Part 1 and Joy the Mad Scientist Part 2. And I am going to finally do an interview, and it'll be my origin stories and the paranormal experiences that I have had, limited as they are, which is unfortunate because I host a show and do all these readings and do all this. I've been reading and talking to people about ghosts since I was a little kid because it just never ceases to fascinate me. And now in my 50s, here's what it's become, this show. So it's exciting to to have all these interests and turn them around, make a show out of it, have you, the Paranormal Nation, listen to it. That means so much. I always say that, but I just am forever in debt to my fans. And thank you so much for supporting this. And I see you, I see the stats, I see you all listening, I see people in different countries listening. I have top rating in documentary podcasts right now. Like I'm ranked. I was a guest at Haunt Lanza. They called me and said, "Hey, we like your show. Come and be a guest." I'd never done a convention before, and um, that's where I met Taddy, and now we're friends. And Jawan Ghost Brothers, and now we're friends. And it's so cool to do that. So um, yeah. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my podcast sensei, my podcast mentor, Joey the Mad Scientist, guys. I hope you enjoy the show. Here we go. Joey the Mad Scientist, welcome to the show, man. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you.
This is just a dream of the show to have you on. Back in the day, you started a podcast with my dear friend Andy Kemp, and it was Uncanny Valley, and before that, or after that, it was called something else, Smash Cut,
Smash Cut, yeah, podcast, yeah.
and it was a film, popular culture, television smash up kind of film professor talking about film. And you produced it and edited it, and I have every episode that I think I lost a bunch of the smash cuts, but I have all of the Uncanny Valley episodes somewhere. Thoroughly
Nice.
enjoyed it. And
Nice.
then because Andy had a podcast, I was like, maybe I can do a podcast. And then when I called you and asked you if you wanted to produce my show, you encouraged me to do it myself. And I did. And thank you so much for that, dude. I know you were working and you got your twins and everything's
Yep.
crazy. So you have moved a little bit away from podcast world, but you just encouraged me to start my own, and I'm this is nearing the end of my second season. And thank you, Joey, for your
That's so
encouragement.
awesome.
And it's great to have you here. And yeah, brother. Shout out to Andy Kemp
Yeah, Andy
and
who? No, just
Digitribe.
kidding.
Kemp Kemp Wilcox. That's right. Kemp Wilcox. Yes.
I'm
I
kidding. No, yeah, shout out to Andy, wherever he may be.
He's bloody in Arizona, so far away from me. I haven't
Yeah,
seen him in a couple years now. I don't like it. I'm glad he's
yeah.
working though. And he's
Hmm.
got a new kid. He had to start all that over again because why not?
Yep,
When you
that's right.
turn 40, have another kid, even though your kids are grown. Why not?
Yeah.
He's a grandfather
Well,
now.
yeah, I bet. I bet. Wow.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
that's great. Yeah.
yep.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And this has been a long time coming. So excited to tell this story.
Excellent. Well, and Joey, you know the format and you're a fan of the show. You kind of know how this goes. Myself and the Paranormal Nation are here. We're very excited to hear your story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then start with your first paranormal experience and move us through your life?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So, um, a little bit about myself. So, I am Joey the Mad Scientist. I used to
Boom,
be in the
boom.
podcast. I used to be into podcasting. Um, I did. I fell in love with podcasting very early on before it was really a big thing. So I started my first podcast in 2003, I believe. And nobody knew what podcasting was. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I'm a historian on podcasts. That's a whole other story that could take tons of time. Um,
Wicked. Very cool.
did quite a few podcasts under the Digitribe moniker. I did a Smash Cut, Uncanny Valley, Arcade or Die. I did one with this other gentleman, and it was about music. And then I also did a DJ, like a DJ set. So I would do either like trance or drum and bass or, whatever for an hour. So I would mix. And so I did a ton of that stuff. So at any rate, I lived in Atlanta for most of my life, Atlanta surrounding area, and then once my kids were born, me and my wife decided to go on an adventure, and we bought a 22-acre farm in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. So currently, that's where I am. I'm surrounded by nothing, and I have great internet, and life is peachy. Life is grand.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, I
Yeah.
I would love to talk
more with you later about the history of podcasting, which I also am obsessed with podcasting, but it really all started with Andy and you on Uncanny Valley. I had never heard a podcast before. That was the first one I ever heard, and just a real honor and pleasure to be here with you at my humble beginnings in this whole thing.
Awesome.
To be here with you and have you as a guest. Would love to hear more though, absolutely on future conversations between us.
Yeah, we'll chat.
Um, Very cool.
Yeah. So, as far as the paranormal is concerned, for the longest time, I always started off my story by saying I have exactly one paranormal or ghost kind of story, and I have exactly one UFO story. And so that was always how I set things up. But uh, recently something else happened, and I had a second paranormal, don't know what it was kind of situation, something that I couldn't explain. So I guess do we just start with the very first
The
sort of
very first
paranormal
one.
experience that I ever
Yeah,
had?
yeah. What was the first one that happened? Yeah.
All right. So just a little background. Um, a few years prior to this, I was about 6 or 7 years old when this happened. A few years prior to this, my parents were in the process of going through a divorce, and I was staying with my dad and my future stepmom at this time, and I had a perfectly fine childhood. It was rocky for a few different things, but look, all things considered, it could have been a lot worse, and I don't take anything for granted. So I had a pretty good childhood. But um, one night, I was doing my usual nighttime routine. I love baths. I love taking a bath. I still do actually. So I'm the frou-frou bath guy. Like that's me. I love it. My wife doesn't like taking baths, but I do. Um, so I had a nighttime routine, taking my bath. I get out of the bath. I'm done playing and all that stuff. Drain the water. And something else very important to note: my name is really Joseph. But at this point in my life, nobody called me Joseph. Everybody called me Joey, and that'll be important for a reason in a second. Um, so I'm going downstairs and get my Flintstones vitamins, that sort of thing. So I'm walking downstairs and I hear somebody very lightly, just a little bit above a whisper, not really very loudly, say Joseph. And so that registered with me. I turned around, and when I turned around, I looked up and I saw two figures, two people, one male, one female. And the only thing I can really say about their appearance was they both had long blonde hair. They both had deep blue eyes with really just sort of um, not really bags, but some people have kind of like a discolor underneath their eyes, just a darker kind of color underneath their eyes. That's sort of what it looked like. Um, and they were wearing, I don't really know if it was a robe, like robes or whatever, but it was like a brown kind of cloth thing that they had around them. But the weird thing was that they were fuzzy. Um, they just looked like they were out of focus.
Right.
Um, but in either case, it freaked me out because these are people that I didn't know, and they were in this house that I was staying at that I'd only been for a little while,
Yeah.
and so I really freaked out. So I took off and ran down the stairs. And then once I got down the stairs, I gained enough composure to peek back around the corner, and they were gone. Now, another thing to note, it looked like they were both smiling at me as well. So they didn't appear to be threatening. I just was freaked out because I was a 6 or 7 year old, and
Yeah.
and this is a situation. So that is really the very first um paranormal situation that I ever encountered. I don't know what it was. I don't know
Yeah.
if they were, ghosts, if they were messengers, if they were, I don't, I've never sort of figured out what they were. So
A Angels,
yeah,
guardian
yeah,
guardian angels.
yeah,
But
yeah.
nothing happened as a result, or they weren't prophetic with anything. Nothing. They didn't tell you anything or give you any information or warn you or anything. It just happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if they were planning on, because I booked it. Like I took off. I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to hear it. So I have no idea. I mean, after that, I went through like I said, I had a good childhood, but I went through kind of a tumultuous time. Um,
Did that
you know,
comfort you? Did that help?
no, not really.
Right. Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, I have had people, that I've talked to that have told the story before that say, well, they sound like what are they called? The Vedics, the Nordic looking aliens or whatever,
Oh,
that's what they sound like or whatever, or they could be messengers of some sort that just wanted to let you know that they were watching out for you or something like that. I really don't know. I really have no idea.
wow.
So yeah,
Did they have
yeah.
shoes on or were they barefoot? Or they
I
just had the
don't.
robes, right? That you
Yeah,
didn't know.
I don't know. I don't know if I saw their feet or not. I just saw the
Okay.
general
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it sounds cliche to say, but if you think of um, Obi-Wan Kenobi's robe color in the first Star Wars, that's the robe colors that they had on.
No, that
Yeah.
fits. That paints it better for me in my head. Were they young? Were they children or were they adults?
They were adults. They
They were
were like,
adults,
yeah, they look to be around the same age that most of the people that I associated as adults were. So, my parents are pretty young, so I'd say early 20s.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my camp counselors were old and they were probably
Yeah.
24 at the most. But when I was a kid, those are all older people. And they weren't
Yeah.
they weren't and then the teenagers in the neighborhood were the older kids. So there was like a level of right. But they couldn't have been
Yeah.
more than 24, 25.
Yeah. And looking
Okay.
back on it, it was a very harmless situation. It wasn't, looking back on it, I don't think that there was anything threatening about that. It's just when I was that age, I'd only been at that house for a little while, and there were these two strangers at the top of the steps, and I had never
Right.
seen them in my entire life.
Was there an atmosphere or a heaviness or something that came and went along with their presence that the house got heavy or cold or any of those things? Or was it just
Mm.
that none of the atmospheric things around you changed, but you saw what you saw? Is that
Yeah, just
do you
the
yeah,
other than the vision, the only things that happened, I heard my name, Joseph. It wasn't quite a whisper, but it was very quiet, and it sounded like it was like right back behind me.
but they were
And
far away,
they were at the top of the stairs. I was probably
right?
6, 7 stairs down. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Out of
they could
maybe
have
11 stairs.
they could have spoke loudly enough to reach you from where you were, and that would have been them.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
with that, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up,
Oh my
that sort
God.
of thing. But that's, that was, me being a kid freaked out. So
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't fall down the stairs or anything or like hurt yourself running away
yeah,
because you'd just taken a bath, so your feet were probably wet. I don't know, moving on stairs with wet feet. Goodness.
yeah. Well, you got to remember, this is the era of carpet, so everything was carpeted.
Oh, okay,
But
well, there you go.
yeah,
All right, well, I
yeah,
don't know. But
yeah,
still, I'm glad you didn't hurt yourself running away.
yeah, likewise. Yeah, and that
Uh,
was it. It was, it's very, looking back on it, it's um very mild, very mellow. There's nothing that kind of floated around. There's nothing that
right.
you know there was one other thing that didn't happen to me, but it
Okay.
happened to my stepmom. And
In that house.
no, actually.
Okay.
Well, um so I'll tell this story. It's not my story to tell necessarily, but she's been passed away for about 8 years now. But I'll tell it, and she got into an accident, and she was in a wreck, and it put her in the hospital for a couple of days. And when she was in the hospital, um, there was something that visited her that was very sinister and very scary, and she didn't know what it was. I don't know if she was on painkillers or anything like that. There's no idea on any of that stuff, but something visited her. Now, I had gotten a book about Dracula. I just, this random book that intrigued me, and it had these, weird pictures in it. And so we go to the hospital, and I had just gotten this book, and I'm flipping through this book, and she kind of looks over and she says, "Go back to the page before that." And I go back to the page before that, and there was this picture of a Dracula type figure, and she was like, "That's the thing that visited me." She's talking to
Goodness
mom. She's like,
gracious.
That's the thing that visited me the other night. So I don't really know what that was about. That was after the situation that I had, and after they were already married and everything. But yeah,
Wow.
and that's not necessarily my story, but that is, that is something that happened, I guess, adjacent to me. So
Okay.
in that situation,
It
yeah,
probably was something more of Nosferatu looking, that black and white film, that German black and white film
yeah,
kind of looking, kind of that thing, whatever that kind of idea of vampire was. Like, because that was
yeah,
definitely inspired by Dracula, but not Dracula, right? Because he didn't want to pay for the rights.
yeah. It's been a long time, so I don't really remember what it looked like. I know it wasn't your stereotypical, um, uh, five and
Bella,
dime Dracula kind of
Bella Lugosi, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was definitely different than that. And it was more shadow-esque, like very, very shadowy, that sort of thing. So,
Wow.
but
Wow.
um, but yeah, so that I mean that's the only other kind of thing that happened in that house, or not really in that house, but adjacent to that house,
At
was
that
because
time
of
in your life,
yeah, yeah. And as a kid, I just kind of passed it off. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I figured maybe she dreamed it or something, but who knows?
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So, and then and we can talk about this story more. The second story, and this brings me to the reason why I wanted to come on your podcast. There are some similarities and some differences in the second paranormal can't explain it kind of situation. And then my UFO story is honestly, it's so boring.
No,
It's
no, no.
so
I
boring.
like your UFO story. Give us the UFO story and then
Okay,
the one
okay,
you called me. Ladies and gentlemen, he called me a couple of weeks ago and he said, we gotta do the podcast. I gotta, I gotta tell you, I
yeah,
have to share the story about what happened to me. I had two paranormal experiences my entire life, had a third. So yeah, but
yeah,
let's
yeah,
let's go to the second one, the UFO, and tell us, Joey, what happened. Yeah, tell us the UFO story. And it's not boring, and you're a good storyteller. You stop that. Now share your story.
Well, this is the story that I call the boring UFO story because it's so generic,
It's just
that
cliche, but it's
it's
also
almost embarrassing. Yeah,
no,
but that's
because it
okay. That's okay.
happened. It happened. It
Yeah,
happened,
it did
dude. It
happen.
happened. Yes.
And so this was I was probably around 19 or 20, and I had just come. I was leaving from my friend's house. This was whenever I lived around Atlanta, or I think I lived in Jonesboro at the time, and so this was in Riverdale. So um, for those of you that know, there was a QT in Riverdale. It was like one of the first QTs I ever remember, and I was coming down this side road, um, and I stopped at the light. And it was not really. It's kind of like that time where it's not really summer, but it's not officially summer, but it's not spring. It's a little warmer. The days are getting longer. So like the end of May, the beginning of June, that kind of place. So it was around 6 p.m., 6:30-ish. It's still bright outside, but it's getting close to that twilight hour that everybody loves to make films in, right? So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so that twilight hour. So the sky was very clear, everything was very clear. Um, and I'm waiting at the stoplight. I just happen to look up my top right hand corner. I'm just kind of looking at everything. I'm not really paying attention to much. And I see this very stereotypically shaped UFO saucer with the dome on the top and the kind of frisbee-esque kind of bottom, and there's multicolors. But once again, it's fuzzy. It's like it's out of place. It looks like it's not supposed to be where it is. Um, and go ahead.
It was fuzzy like the angels.
In a different way. So the angels were fuzzy, and it was just like I should have been able to see them clearly, but they were too. It was like they were too far away, and I don't know if you're nearsighted or whatever, but you wear glasses, so you understand the concept of like things you can't see. So
Yeah.
they just looked like they were too far away for me to see them clearly, but
They
they
were
were
only
fuzzy.
7 steps away.
Right, right. But this was, it's like somebody green screened this UFO thing, but they didn't do it right, and it was kind of out of place. So not only was it
Wow.
fuzzy, it just looked like it was superimposed onto the sky, like somebody
You
had
were
color
already
filmed.
looking, you were already looking through color. Shrinky dink.
Showing my age.
You were looking through a windshield though.
I was looking through a windshield, but I mean,
Mhm.
I'm looking at buildings, I'm looking at trees, I'm looking at,
Right. Yeah.
everything else. Everything else is fine except for this thing, and it's moving along. It's not moving super fast, it's not moving erratic. It's moving from right to left, and the light turns green. There's a bunch of people behind me. I have to go, and I figured I'll turn left and I'll jump down this side street and I'll circle around to see if I can see what that was. So
Yeah.
I turn left. The trees sort of obstruct my view. I can't see it. And then I turn around a corner and it's gone. And I loop back around. I go, back to where I was. I go into Riverdale, the city proper. I cannot find it whatsoever. It's just gone. And that is my very boring UFO story.
Sounds, did you hear anything?
No, no, no sounds at all. No sounds whatsoever.
So their Klingon technology cloak was just broken and then they fixed it. They're
Yeah.
like, shit, shit, shit. Oh God, shit. Oh, I fixed it. All right, thank you. And then they just flew on.
Yeah. Yeah, they just, and I've I've heard stories before, like, okay, so, could it have been a weather balloon or whatever? And
Oh
I'd say, well,
God.
maybe it could have been a weather balloon, but it just looked like it was
Are weather
superimposed, right?
balloons? I'm looking up weather balloons right now. Are they even shaped like flying saucers? Because I've had enough of this weather balloon nonsense. What does a weather balloon actually fucking look like? Hang on just a second. I want to know. Okay, good God. No, that is ridiculous. It just looks like a big tan bubble. That is just ridiculous, Joey. That is what a weather balloon looks like. That's not saucer shaped. There's no way that you're going to be like, oh, it's a flying saucer. That is a bloody large balloon, like that
Yeah.
Chinese thing that they were like, oh, it's off the coast of. That's
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
what that looks
Yeah.
like. That's exactly what that looks like. How are people mistaking those for saucers? Yeah, they're not. That's how they're. That's yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not really sure. So the only thing that it ties to the original story is
Yeah,
the fuzziness, but like I said, it was just a little different.
and it's
It
in
was like
your
it was
experience.
superimposed. And I feel kind of silly saying that because the trope of anytime you take a picture of Bigfoot or a specter or something a UFO or an alien or whatever, it's always fuzzy. And I didn't even need to take the picture of it. It was already it was already fuzzy.
Right.
So
Yeah. And
yeah.
it was green or brown. You said what color was it?
No, it was multicolors. It was your red, green, blues. It was your RGBs, and it
Oh,
was kind of like pulsating. So it was like going in a circle. Like the colors were sort of going in a around in a circle.
but it was that flying saucer War of the Worlds like plate with the saucer on top, kind of like upside down plate kind of thing with the top and everything.
Yeah, you got the dome, and then you have
Yeah.
like if you're looking at it from the ground, like a concave
Yeah.
appearance.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, I've never seen anything else in the sky that I couldn't account for,
Sure.
other other than, looking, we have a great view of the stars here, and every now and then you'll see something that is moving in a way that doesn't make sense, but what do I know? I mean,
Was it flying really low, Joey? Was it in the sky a way away? Or was it like low, like you could see the power lines next to it and it was like right there?
it wasn't that close to the ground, but I will tell you, so my brother went skydiving one time,
Yeah.
and he jumped out of the airplane at 1,400 feet, and it was closer than that. That's what I can tell you. So it was
Because you saw your brother jump from the ground?
right.
Ah,
Yeah. Well,
fascinating.
it's
Yeah.
like really, 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 tiny. This was
Yeah.
bigger. If I had to guess, it was It wasn't near the power lines or anything. Maybe 400, 500 feet up, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
The thing is, Joey, it happened in Riverdale, in a very populated city in Georgia. And it at twilight hour, like in the middle, the magic hour, like literally like early evening, like daylight outside.
Yeah.
That's very unique because people always see stuff in the sky at night, in the desert sky, especially, which is all like no noise pollution, I'm sorry, no light pollution, no nothing. And then it's like, what is that? Like dot that's going way too fast, right? Or
Yeah.
they see stuff out the windows of planes and it's just like this weird like stapler shaped thing or this weird um egg shaped thing that doesn't even have wings. It's like what is that? But your story is unique and interesting because it was really quick. It happened and in the middle of the day. It was just like, wait, what? And also, when you looked around at the other cars and drivers, did they seem? I mean, I get, that you thought the guy behind you was gonna honk at you. Probably, you were like, I gotta go. It's the light screen, but nobody else was like your typical like I'm just thinking of like Independence Day, people getting out of
The
their
movie
cars and
scene.
running
Yeah.
back up the street, like they're leaving their cars behind. None of that happened. No panic, nothing. Just everybody was just like in their cars, like, what is happening?
I assume not. So here's
Right.
the thing. I knew that there were cars behind me because there were cars behind me whenever I stopped at the stoplight. However, I was not taking my eyes off of that thing that was in the sky because I
Mhm.
wanted to try to track it as I went around the corner. I
Yeah.
wanted to try to track it. And so I have no idea if people were getting out of
You
their cars or
you were
looking.
just interested in you seeing it. You were like,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm
I
not really,
wanted to
I
know
don't,
what it was. I
I
wanted to
saw it.
know
I want to
where it
know.
went.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to drive and follow it,
Yeah.
So so in my head, I didn't think it would disappear, quickly or whatever. So,
Wild.
turning the corner, trees obscure it. I'm like, okay, well, it's right there, and turn the corner and it's gone. It's just gone. So,
It's wild.
yeah,
In typical UFO fashion, it's gone.
yeah, yeah,
Wild. I like that story. I don't catch your wet blanketing it. I don't see any blankets. I think it's a good story. I think it's solid. And I think the
yeah.
listeners would agree with me. I think it's a good one. You've told it so many times and also it's never had any clarity to it. It's never made any sense, you know.
No, no, yeah, yeah. No, it's
So it's
I
just
don't refute
yeah.
that it's a good story. It is a good story. It's just so generic, even in the shape of the UFO and everything. Like it could be pulled out of a 1970s movie or something like that. So, but it's something that happened, and it's that's that. And it does have a tie-in with all of these other ones, all these other stories in the sense that there was like a fuzziness to it, and that's a kind of a teaser for the next story as well.
So I'm gonna throw in a story from my fiance Michelle, who is amazing. Real quick, because she lived in Arizona growing up, and there was a time when her whole family was in a car and they were driving and picture Arizona, it's a desert, it's Arizona.
It's
And
Arizona.
they're not in the city part. They're kind of out in the country, kind of bumpkin kind of king. They lived in the bumpkin. They lived in the country part and pretty far from most things. And it was a pretty rural area. And they were just driving and it was nighttime. And all of a sudden the sky just got daylight bright and then faded. And
Huh.
they were all like, what the hell was that? And looking back on it, she goes, it was probably a UFO or something because it was so bright and it lasted long enough for us to notice it was not a blink. It was nighttime, then it was bright as day, and then it stopped, and then it went back. It faded in and out like somebody turned up stage lights and then turned them back down. It was quick enough, but not quick enough for it was a flash. It was a
Wow.
gradual oncoming of light and then a fading of light. And she asked her mom about it. She asked her sister about it. They both remember. So, and she said, when she told me the story, I was like, well, have you asked your mom and your sister about it? She goes, uh, not in a long time. But when she did ask them, they both remembered and they both were like, yeah, that was pretty weird. What? Oh my God. Like what? That's so crazy. Like, what a, yeah, anyway. So, um, yes, maybe things are mundane because they happen to you and you've gone over them so many times in your head that they're not interesting to you anymore. But I think that these phenomena that we experience, if they should be shared and they should be talked about, and what the heck was that? And I love
Yeah,
that her mom and her sister were like, yeah, totally happened, right?
yeah,
Because she was like, maybe it didn't happen. And I'm like, ask your mom and your sister. And they
yeah.
both were like, oh yeah, yeah, that was really weird. Anyway, so yeah,
That
yeah,
reminds me of the usual reaction that people have on Doctor Who, when they see something crazy in their sky, like, "Oh, that's weird. Hey, did you get potatoes?" You know.
yeah. Would you pass the salt, please?
Yeah.
We have to finish dinner because the house is filling with water, even though we are nowhere near a body of water. We should probably move faster. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
the people in Doctor Who, they yeah, they don't react right. And that it just makes it even more weird.
Yeah.
I love Doctor Who. Michelle has recently brought me into Doctor Who, and I'm just like,
Oh
you
no.
know, this whole show is so bizarre. She's like, yes, yes, but you just have to sit through it and just wait. You'll enjoy it because it all ties it in, and then it doesn't. It'll leave you wondering. And I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my
it
God.
eventually the though. But the other show that came along with that, oh man, I'm blanking on the name, but that one was really
Tomorrow
good.
People,
Yeah, I think so. I think that was it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, good
yeah.
one.
That was really
It's
good
like
too.
it was like made for kids, Doctor Who,
I,
you know?
yeah, yeah,
What about
yeah.
Children of the Stones? Did you see that thing?
No, I didn't.
Another weird British kind of eerie series, but also like catered to children, but also really weird and dark and like, what is this? So when we were growing up, we were watching a lot of Nickelodeon shows. The
Okay.
Nickelodeon shows we were watching were all British and Canadian television
Yeah,
because they were
yeah,
cheaper. And there
cheaper.
was
Yeah,
some weird shit, man. Weird
yeah,
shit. And cool shit, but weird.
yeah.
So The Third Eye was a show, and Special Delivery was a show on Nickelodeon. Both of them were Twilight Zone-ish kind of things, and The Third Eye featured all 6 episodes of the miniseries Children of the Stones, which I chased down by the way and found. And then
Huh.
Tomorrow People is this. There's different incarnations of the Tomorrow People. They've redone it, but it's also kind of a weird, made for kids Whovian-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotta be the Tomorrow People. I was trying to make sense of it as a kid. I'm like, what is this show? What is happening?
Well, no, this one came out in like the 2000s, the same time that the
Oh,
newly
okay.
revised Doctor Who
Oh,
came out. But
I don't
um,
know.
but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's funny how most of our pop culture, a lot of our pop culture was informed by how cheap networks could get the TV show. All the way back to The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz was a flop. And the reason why you saw it every year is because it was so cheap to run. And then A Christmas Story was so cheap to run that everybody would run it once a year for Christmas because it was so cheap, and now it's like this beloved Christmas classic. So all of that stuff, it's pretty funny. There's a movie,
Wow.
if you ever get a chance. And this is my wife's movie from her childhood. I've got a couple, but my wife's, and this is one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen, is The Peanut Butter Solution. And it's a Canadian film, and it has a very early Celine Dion, before she got fame, singing the theme song in it. But it's a Canadian film. It is the most bizarre film I've ever seen in my entire life. So, The Peanut Butter Solution.
I'm gonna have to chase that down.
Check it out. Yeah, yeah.
I know the Peanut Butter Falcon is that's a different movie.
No,
I've heard of
that's
that.
different.
Yeah.
I think that's a Shia LaBeouf.
That's Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Buff LaBeouf. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But at any rate, not to turn this into a movie podcast, which I want to do
It could be.
sometimes.
It's dangerously walks the line most of the time.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so those were for the longest time, those were the two paranormal stories that I had in my back pocket that I could sort of give at any time. One sort of dealing with ghosts or apparitions or whatever you want to call it, and then one sort of dealing with, UFOs and aliens and stuff like that. So those are the two that I had. And then this past spring, I had another situation, and I I sat with that. I sat with this particular situation for a long time before I talked to anybody about it, because it really creeped me out. It was very creepy. And there, like I said, there's some ties to the other apparition story that I have, but then there's a lot of differences. But I reached out to you because I just don't know what to make of this. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
was. I don't know if it's connected to the other apparition story. And I'd be really curious from your listeners to see if they might have an idea on what
yeah,
happened.
yeah. And I'm interested for the feedback on this one as well. But I think that the more we dig, and we talked about this into Appalachian lore, I think we might find things. But
Yeah.
I'm not, my Appalachian lore is kind of skunk ape and kind of like jacktails, like just stories. And skunk ape is Florida's Bigfoot, basically. But like, just that's that. I don't have. I'm I'm not as much into skinwalkers and wendigos, and those are kind of things I haven't read enough about. But Joey, tell the folks what happened. It's
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
interested to
So
hear this story again because you called me in not a panic, but a Rob. I'm gonna tell you something, man. Yeah,
yeah, and I, I
let's hear the
gave you
story.
I gave you the quick and dirty of it, but I wanted to save it for the podcast. So
Joey, we're here, and
yeah,
I have thought and rethought about the story that folks you're about to hear, and it's a whopper. It's a real doozy.
yeah. So I will set this up with a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned Appalachia, so I will say that I live pretty close to the Blue Ridge Parkway. So we're definitely really close to Appalachian Trail. We're definitely really close to Appalachia in general. And so there is that. Where I was not what you would necessarily call Appalachia, but it is Appalachia adjacent. Um, the other thing that I want to talk about is just my beliefs in spirituality. I do believe in a physical realm. I believe in a spiritual realm. I believe that, for the most part, not to give any credence to things that you don't want to see, or you don't talk about the things that you don't want to see. So if the only thing I can compare it to is the Native Americans always said, "Don't talk about skinwalkers." And because if you talk about skinwalkers, you're going to have skinwalkers, right? So,
Right.
so that's my natural inclination, is to generally not talk about stuff like this, because I don't really want it. I don't want it anymore. Like, I don't ever want to see
Sure.
this thing
Sure.
that I saw. But I'm
Sure.
very, curiosity killed the cat. So I want to know if anybody has any ideas of what this could be. So that being said, I was coming home from a meeting. It was not super late at night, but it was late enough. It was springtime. It was about 10 or 10:30. Um, so it was dark. And the way that I come home, there's two ways you can come home from this particular place. You can either take the highway, or you can take, it's just a more scenic route. You can take the back roads, and the back roads go through farmland. So you will drive through farmland. You'll see a couple of houses here and there, and then you'll be back in the middle of nowhere. And there is one particular area where you go through the literal woods. So you have this road, you have a couple of houses, farms, and then you go through these deep woods. It's not a switchback road, but it's very curvy. So that's setting this up. This is where I am. Everything had been completely fine. Everything was completely normal. And as I'm sort of going down and up this hill, um, I see something, and it's a human. And at first, I think that I'm looking at a female that might be in distress. And so we're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the woods here. There's nothing around us for a very long time. And she's coming down, like I'm driving up this hill. She's walking down the hill, and she's very stilted. Like her hands and her arms are very rigid and very stilted. She's walking as if she has been barefoot and is walking on a ton of gravel. This is a paved road, but like she was walking on a ton of gravel and her feet really hurt or something like that. So my immediate reaction is this woman is in trouble. Something is wrong, and I need to stop and make sure that she's okay, and see if I can call the police or whatever.
Yes.
Um, so as I get closer to her, and I do start to slow down, the the first thing that I notice, and this is the connector to the other two stories, is I cannot get her into focus. So I can't focus on her. And I'm scanning her body, and and it's not just I can't see her. She's out of my focus view. I can't discern anything legible about her, with the exception of it looked like she had a dress. It looked like I'm going to pull up a very specific scene in a movie. So some people will understand this, some people won't. Have you ever seen National Lampoon's Vacation, the first one?
Sure.
Okay, so there is a particular scene where they have the ant in the car, and they crash and everything, and the ant like picks her head back up, and she has part of her hat, like her hat's been ripped, this brim hat, and so like there's a part of her hat that's coming over the top of her head, and it's not connected to the brim. So I look and I see this thing that looks like a hat that might have been ripped or whatever, that's over the top of her over the top, but there's no brim, and I can't quite make out what it is, but there is something that is above her head and kind of coming down the sides of her head. She was wearing, like I said, like a some sort of blue pattern dress, not really sure, maybe like a sundress or whatever. And here's the weird thing: when I look at her face, the only thing that I can make out, it's all fuzzy, it's all out of focus. The only thing I can make out is two very dark holes for eyes. And that's the only thing that I can make out on her face. There's no other facial features. And whenever I realize that I can't get her face in focus, and I am maybe 6 feet away from her at this point, and I'm
You're
slowing
slowing
down.
down as you're approaching her. Yeah.
I'm slowing down. I still haven't rolled my window down because I'm trying to stare at her to figure out what's going on. I'm slowing down, and she's looking at me, and she's kind of turning her body a little bit towards me as I'm slowing down, not walking towards me, but just turning her body to sort of face me.
She stopped walking and is now looking at
She
you
slowed
approaching her.
she slowed her pace, and
Slowed her
she's kind
pace.
of,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of, and sort of turning as she's walking, and I'm getting close. And I will tell you that every single hair on my body stood up, and I had a visceral reaction. Like my skin, just all everywhere was chicken skin, and my fight or flight kicked in, and I drove. And there was a feeling of dread. There was a sense of dread and panic, and I didn't know what I was looking. I don't know if that was. I don't know what that was from, other than I didn't. I couldn't focus on what I was looking at. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I couldn't quite bring the thing that I was looking, that's right in front of me, into view. And the only thing that I could see on her face, call her, the only thing I could see on her face was these two black holes for eyes, and that's the only thing that I could see. There's no way she
Mm.
was wearing sunglasses or anything like that.
No.
Um, so so the connections here to the initial apparition story is the fuzziness, the out of focus thing. It's a little different, but the fuzziness and the out of focus. And the only other thing that's somewhat similar is the dark circles underneath the first apparition's eyes. This was complete, you know, just holes, just blank holes for eyeballs. No face. I mean, no mouth, no nose, no nothing. And then
Yeah.
the weird thing over the head, and the jerky walking and all of that. And I I took off, and every time I drive down that road, I sort of have a mild situation where I'm like, I don't want to see that thing that I saw before. I don't want it. I don't want it in my life. So that's my story, man.
Yeah. Did you look in your rearview mirror when you were
No,
driving away? Okay.
no, no.
You did
I
not get
just
a last glance. You were just like, what,
no.
gotta go.
It was a literal fight or flight. I don't know if you've ever had true fight or flight moments, but it was a fight or flight moment where I have to get out of here immediately. It's the adult version of running down the stairs because there's two strange people
Right.
behind me.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
No idea. And there's a
That
part of me that,
story, yeah, never gets thin or less sharp or scary. And speaking of chicken flesh, like my whole body, like I, just it's terrifying, man. It's just terrifying what
yeah.
happened.
And then,
I don't know.
there's,
I don't know what to tell you. I have no idea. I don't
yeah, and
know.
there's a small
What the
part of
hell
me
was that?
that's like, as I was driving away, and there was a small part of me that was saying, "You're crazy." There was somebody that needed your help, and you're
Oh my
driving away.
God. No, I'm
There's
good.
always, there's
I'm
always
sorry. Yeah.
the thing, like it could have been and maybe my eyes were playing a trick on me or whatever, but I didn't have an issue seeing my dashboard. I didn't have an issue seeing the road. I didn't have an issue seeing the guardrail on the side of the road because this is a switchback. I didn't have an issue seeing the bridge, so it's just but there is still a part of me that's like, you left somebody that was in danger in the middle of the woods, and you should have gone to get them. And there's another part that's like, nope, that's how horror movies start. That's
Yeah.
that's
No,
what
it's good. I'm
it's
good.
about.
I'm good. No, I'm good.
Yeah,
I kind of think of it the same way. It's like, well, should you pick up a hitchhiker? It's like, well, do you want to fight that dude? Could you take that guy in your car while you were driving? It's like, no, not really. I don't want
yeah,
to have to. And it's like, yeah, just keep driving then. I don't know. What are you gonna do?
yeah,
What if he pulls a gun out? What if he does take a knife and be like, take me to this place. I'm taking you and your car. Like you know what? I don't know. Sometimes you just kind of got to keep yourself safe in situations. And I stopped
yeah.
picking up hitchhikers 20, 30 years ago. I did it when I was in college, and picking up people in middle Georgia, in the middle of nowhere, like just other kids that looked familiar. Like maybe, hey, you guys are walking back to school from Huddle House. I'll give you a ride, but that's
Nice.
about it. You know what I mean? That's about it.
Yeah.
I knew where
And
school was. I knew where the Huddle House was. I'll give these kids a ride. They're all the other students, but like, nah, I'm not picking up hitchhikers.
the big difference with this and the first story is, the first story I was scared, yes, but
Yeah.
it was a childlike fear. It was just, oh my goodness, there's people that appeared behind me, and I don't know what that is, and so I run. This was a There was a sinister feeling, there was a sinister vibe to it, and I did not feel safe whatsoever. It was a
Yeah.
completely different kind of feeling. I look back on the other story and I'm like, and it seems very harmless, very innocent, very Steven Spielbergish, but this feels more like an A24 film or a Blumhouse film.
What the hell was
Um,
that? Yeah. What the hell was
yeah,
that?
yeah. So if anybody has any thoughts or ideas, you know, I I talked to somebody locally here. They'd not heard of any kind of lore or anything, but I'm just curious as to what other people's opinions might lead to, other kind of thoughts. I don't ever want to see that thing again. I
Black-eyed
don't want to know what it.
children? You heard
This,
of those
uh,
guys?
no, I've never heard of that before.
Like black-eyed children knock at your door, but they have
Mm.
no pupils. They just have black eyes, and then you look through your peephole, and they're out there. They just want to be let in. They said, "Can we come inside?"
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've never heard
And
of that.
then more than one people have experienced this before, where there's a knock at the door, and there's two kids there in like weird clothes, like just like country, like plain clothes, and they don't seem to be
Yeah.
from the same time period, and they got black coloring for pupils, and they're like, "Can we come inside?" And then most people do not answer the door. Most people do not open the door. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. That it seems
Yeah,
excuse me. It seems
I
related, but like that's a story that more than one person has told, that black-eyed children thing. But it's just urban legend stuff,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Uh, yeah,
It's
I
not really
really don't know what it
ghosts
was.
like yeah, yeah, yeah.
I I did, somebody, the one person locally that I kind of talked to, just to see if there was any kind of lore or whatever, they asked me, did you did you get a sense like you lost time or you lost any kind of memory or anything like that? And I've had a
Oh,
concussion before and I didn't get any of that. I
yeah.
didn't experience any time loss or any lapse in sort of mental cognition that I could tell.
And once your
Um,
adrenaline came down from the initial shock and that moment, the rest of that day was your body,
oh
your
yeah,
mind, no
yeah,
dizziness, none of the other stuff. Right. Yes. So
no,
I don't know. I don't think it was something Jacob's ladderish in your head or your subconscious kind of.
right,
Um,
yeah,
I don't think so. But that's a good question, but I don't think so.
yeah.
I think whatever that was outside your fucking car.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a
So
road you travel all the time. You go down this road all the time.
yeah, I live between three different, I'd say cities. It's very rural here. So a city is like, three or four strip malls. And this is a road, like I said, you can get to this particular city two different ways. You can take the highway or you can take these back roads. And I love taking these back roads because it's very pretty. And it's very quiet. And,
Yeah.
there's nothing like traveling down these little country roads at night with music on, and it's just a good feeling. But this was not a good feeling. This is completely different. So, yeah,
Good Lord, that story.
yeah,
Whew. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what people have to say and if we get any feedback from it. Please tag Joey the Mad Scientist in your emails to me about this episode and your questions, so I'll know that you're talking about this episode in particular.
yeah.
You could just put Black-Eyed Lady Country Road, and I'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And this is not something that I study up on because like I said, I don't
No, you don't
I
want to
don't want
bring
to
it
invite
upon
I
you.
don't want to
Yeah,
invite
yeah.
things into my life. I don't want it. So, you mentioned the black-eyed children. I don't know anything about that. There's a lot of these things that I don't really know, about. But if anybody has an explanation or a thought, I'd be very curious. So,
Yeah, if that was true, all the stuff I read about all the time, good Lord. And I've had very limited paranormal experiences in my life, and listeners, don't worry, you'll get an origin story from me at some point. But um if it was the case of me just being interested in this stuff that brought this stuff, I would be in so much trouble. So much trouble. I've been reading I read everything as a kid. I read the entire middle school library, anything scary. I read everything. I knocked over a couple of libraries going through school. I just rented everything they had. I just checked out every book they had, and
yeah,
I still, if the most stuff I read just in my spare time, it's all spooky and ghost related and just paranormal theory. I don't know, but I would be in so much trouble if just by talking about it, I would bring it upon myself. So I think, I think you're safe, Joey. I think you're okay. I'm
yeah.
glad you shared your story with us. I don't think you're going to bring the thunder by just talking about it. But if it was in your house and you hadn't experienced anything in a while, but You know, it'd calm down, and then you're gonna tell the story while you're in the residence that you experienced the paranormal phenomenon in.
Yeah.
That's relevant. But I
Yeah.
think you'll be all right. Especially since you have traveled that road before and again and since,
But since
and
then,
this
yeah.
is the only thing you've ever seen. Next time,
Yep.
just keep driving. Maybe honk. Burp, burp. Nope.
Yeah.
Nert, nert.
You try to pull my phone. That's that's the interesting
Pull
thing is
into
like
the
every time.
oncoming lane and just be very, very obvious about avoiding it. Like put your emergencies on. No, absolutely not.
I mentally, and I guess I haven't really thought about this until just now, and that I actually do this. But mentally, I am very aware every time I go around that area of where my phone is, so that I can like pick it up really quick and try to video or picture or something, So if I ever see it again, which I hope I never do, but if I do, I want
Amen.
video to look back and see what is that? What is that thing really? So
Yeah. Oh, wow. I can't imagine the video of that thing.
yeah.
Yeah, nah,
So
that'd
which
be
is probably
crazy.
why it doesn't come back because I'm ready.
Now you're ready. Yeah, now you're ready.
Yeah, yeah, which is good. That's fine. I don't want it to come back. That's fine.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
And that's it of your entire life experience. Those three things. It's not like you bump into this kind of stuff all the time, but you definitely bumped into it enough to be like, is there something else
No, yeah, those
beyond
three
our
things.
consciousness?
From 6 years old to about 19 years old to 49 years old. That's I was 49 when that
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Golly.
that's it.
Well, Joey, thank you so much for coming on the show today and telling us your stories. And it's been so great having you. And thank you so much, man. And I'll
Yeah,
get back to you, and if we get enough emails about this, maybe we can have another episode, and I'll just read the emails that I've received, and then we can talk about our response, and maybe that'll be fun to have you back, and we'll read the emails that we receive, and we'll talk about it, and do
that would
some
be
more
awesome.
reading if there's
Yeah,
anything, if there are any leads to chase in this, or it just might be your single experience, but
yeah.
wild, wild, dude, that's a crazy fucking story. Um, yeah, man, and that's fresh. That was this year.
It was this past spring. Yep.
Yeah,
So May.
wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Joey, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was great to have you, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You take care of yourself, all right?
All right. Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Well, there you go. There you have it. Joey the Mad Scientist, Part 1, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. Stick around. Part 2 comes up next, and we'll wrap Season 2 of Paranormal Record. And next show will be my origin stories, and Joey's going to interview me. So stick around for that. That's going to be really cool. Um, it- Wild. This episode is just Joey told me the story, uh, and when I was listening, it just what in the hell was that? Like, it was so terrifying. Like, was that a witch? Is that what people think? Is that why people believe in witches? Because of things like that? Like, what the hell was that? And she was waiting for him, right? She knew he was coming over the top of that road, right? She was just waiting. You think she was walking somewhere and then just happened upon this car? I don't know. That it just that thing was so uh, present in the experience between the interaction between it and Joey. Like it was so conscious of it. It's hard to think um, that it wasn't like planned. Like I don't know what ghosts or haints or Appalachian spirits do with an evening, but maybe part of it is just I'm gonna go and hang out on that highway until a car comes by, and hopefully they pull over so I can scare the shit out of them. I don't know. I don't know, man. That's so scary. That's such a scary experience. Um, and again, it's not like Joey sees things all the time. He's only had like three experiences his whole life, and that was the most recent experience. And then he says, "Well, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want it to happen again." I mean, he drives on that road every day or almost every day, and he's never seen anything. Just 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 that one time a couple months ago, and there she was. I don't, yo, what was that? Yeah, that's so scary, so scary. Well, yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. That's our first kind of um, angel experience here on Paranormal Record as well. I think that's the first time we've talked about angels, um, or the possibility of angels, and then like that's wild, um, and that's such a cool story, and I'd like to know some more about that. And then UFOs in the middle of the day in light traffic on a Georgia afternoon, and then what, like that thing was flying along the power lines. That's a pretty low flying ship. And there it was, just kind of hovering. And then, the next day nobody said anything, like, or just, there was too much news. And so they didn't produce all the UFO sighting stories that they saw. I don't know. This is this day and age. I think it's funny. I was listening to uh, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Dr. Tyson. He was saying that we have less and less abductions now, and then less and less UFO interactions because everybody has a video camera on them at all times. And perhaps the aliens know about that. So they're like, oh shit, we better back off. There's way too many people videotaping everything we do. So let's not abduct anybody anymore because they might have a camera on them. I don't know. I just thought that was hilarious. But, the sightings have lessened since technology has improved. I don't know what that means, but I thought that was interesting. Joey wasn't abducted, but he still saw some crazy shit. Like that's wild. And then, and I love that story about my fiance Michelle and her family, and then just they're driving in the desert, and all of a sudden it's like daylight bright, and then it's nighttime. So I don't know. It's crazy. Oh man. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time. If you have had a paranormal experience, please write into paranormalrecordpodcast@gmail.com. Please tell me your thoughts on the show. If you give me your home address, I will send you a sticker. All you have to do is send me an email. I will send you a sticker. Tell me about an episode you like. Tell me about something about the show you enjoyed. And let me know that you're out there. Get you a paranormal record sticker for your laptop or your Yeti. Get one for your friend. If you send me your address, I'll send you a sticker. I got plenty. Um, I still don't have Hauntland dates or times, and I don't know if I'm going to be a guest. It's getting closer to the time we did it last year, but I'm sure they'll let me know if we're going to do it again and if I'm going to be there. But maybe I'll do something else. But I'll let you guys know where I'm going to be if there's any more appearances. And I got a couple more interviews in the can that I got to edit. So we got some more podcast episodes coming up. Sorry, it's been a little bit of hiatus. I need guests. So if you have anybody that wants to be on the show, please write in again to paranormalrecordpodcast@gmail.com. Share your paranormal experiences right here on the show. Come be a guest. We want to know. Paranormal Nation and I would love to hear your story. We're here. We're ready to believe you, and we want to listen. So let me know if you want to come be a guest on the show. I'm Rob Constantine, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you, Joey. We'll see you next time. Good night.